Hey everybody, Nick Ravellis here, and welcome back to the San Diego Opera Podcast. I suggested in the last podcast about Gilbert and Sullivan's The Pirates of Penzance that the critics who first heard the piece, as well as those musicians in the pit in New York who threatened to strike because the score was more difficult than what they usually had in front of them, were all impressed with the operatic dimensions of the work. I also made reference to the fact that Sullivan, the composer, was trying as much to satirize contemporary opera styles as Gilbert, the playwright, was trying to satirize Victorian society. So without getting too technical, let's get a closer look at what those critics might have considered operatic. If they really did mean to say that Pirates was closer to the world of opera than the world of the lighter operetta styles that were popular in Europe, what were they talking about? Well, here's a perfect example of the kind of thing that they might have heard at Covent Garden, the Royal Opera House, some evening in, let's say, 1879. This is music from Charles Gounod's Faust, arguably the most popular opera at that time. It had everything that audiences could want: a handsome young hero, the tenor, a completely despicable villain, Mephistopheles the devil, sung by a bass, and the beautiful heroine Marguerite, sung by a lyric soprano. The music you just heard is sung by Marguerite, early on in the opera when we, the audience, are first fully introduced to her. The music is light, it's tuneful, and it has a distinctly waltz-like rhythm. It's a kind of perfect musical metaphor for a young, inexperienced girl who's just being introduced to the world, is looking for love and adventure, ready for the world to open up to her. Turns out that Gounod really thought that using a waltz was a terrific way to introduce a young heroine like this, and he does the same thing in his Shakespeare opera, Romeo and Juliet. The first time we meet Juliet, she too has an introductory waltz song. Other composers followed suit, and the introduction of a young heroine in an opera by the way of a waltz song became something of an opera tradition. London audiences were very familiar with that tradition, so when Arthur Sullivan introduces the heroine Mabel in The Pirates of Penzance, he does so through a waltz. In a way, this is like Sullivan saying, hey, we English composers, we can follow your French traditions. Here's a waltz that's every bit as tuneful and accomplished as anything you guys have come up, and it's in my comic opera. This waltz, entitled Poor Wandering One, ends up with all kinds of vocal fireworks and coloratura, just like the waltzes from those French operas, and the audiences at that first performance of Pirates would have caught the allusion immediately. The other thing that Sullivan uses to his advantage is the chorus in his operas, a role which is similar both musically and functionally to the use of the Italian composers in their operas. in the operas of Rossini, Donizetti, and to a great extent Verdi. If the composer wants to pick up the excitement or bring a little contrast and color to a scene, the use of the chorus can be of great advantage. Choruses in Italian opera, with few exceptions, are always really tuneful and rhythmic affairs. Take this chorus from Rossini's La Cenerentola. Now that's just fun music, tuneful, rhythmic, fast-paced, exciting. Or this chorus from Verdi's Il Trovatore, the so-called anvil chorus. Well, what do you think Sullivan had in mind when he wrote this second act chorus for the Pirates? And you might recognize this tune. Sullivan was making a direct reference to a chorus in Verdi's very serious opera, Trovatore, sending up all that Italian seriousness and letting his audience know that he's learned a thing or two about opera and he's going to poke fun at it. I think what he's pointing out is that in the Verdi opera, which is deadly serious and very dark, the music for these gypsy men doesn't really sound all that serious. So why not use the chorus in Pirates in a similar vein? But this time, let's be honest about it. He writes a comic chorus for a comic moment in a comic opera. The text of the chorus concerns itself with the pirates, having pretty much failed as pirates, and turning to burglary instead, hoping that they'll do a little better. It wasn't until later that we began calling them operettas, because they were light and comic in nature, and they had a smattering of spoken dialogue. I think we can afford to not be too precious about it and put them on the same plane as the comic operas of Rossini and Donizetti. I don't think either of those Italian composers would have thought badly of it. I'm Nick Ravellis. I'll see you at the opera.